Crucial night for Scotland as they face Croatia at the Euros. Victory would propel them to the knockout stages of a major tournament for the first time, but without star Billy Gilmour, ruled out by COVID.
Unbelievably excited. It's going to be a great game.
It just is so different when you're actually part of it.
I am excited. I feel like I've waited for this all my life.
Mason Mount and Ben Chilwell are also isolating and missing England's clash tonight against the Czech Republic. We will be live at Wembley, where it's confirmed the final will be held, and at Hampden Park, also tonight. Alarm over Amazon destroying unwanted items. Charities say trash computers should have been given to children. And
isn't it wonderful? Thank you so much.
a very modest heroine, the war veteran, finally getting her medals 75 years on.
This is the ITV Evening News with Mary Nightingale.
Good evening. It is the moment of truth tonight for Scotland's footballers, who know nothing less than victory over Croatia will do if they're to make history at the European Championships. The team's without its star player, of course, because of COVID, but the reward is huge. A first ever place at the knockout stages of a major tournament. England also play tonight, also without key team members, but they are already through. And we will hear from England in a moment. But first, Geraint Venson reports from Hampden Park at Fever Pitch.
Scotland stands on the brink of sporting history at Hampden Park this evening, and on the streets surrounding the stadium, the Tartan Army is painted and ready.
No Scotland, no party! No Scotland, no party!
Unbelievably excited. It's going to be a great game. Great to come through and get to experience it when a lot of people haven't been able to. And yeah, hopefully the boys do it for us tonight.
I am excited. I feel like I've waited for this all my life.
Scotland come into this game with confidence gained from a great performance against England last week, but which is tempered by the news that their man of the match that night, midfielder Billy Gilmour, can't play this evening because he's since tested positive for COVID-19. And for an already long-established Scottish footballing legend, the pandemic is another reason tonight means so much.
You know, everyone's been affected by it in some way, some tragically. So for a nation, you know, this would be great for us to get through. You know, if COVID wasn't here, if that hadn't affected us, it'd still be a great moment for us. You know, we've never got out of a group stage in any of the competitions we've ever been in. So this is a wonderful chance for us.
Scotland's players have an opportunity to inspire the next generation, to give them memories they'll keep for life. Young players who are learning the game on the school fields where Scotland's captain, Andy Robertson, once played.
He's a really hard worker, he's fast, like I am. He likes to get forward as well, so he's quite an attacking threat as well as a solid defender.
So you model your game on his?
Definitely, yeah. I think everyone should.
Andy had to work extremely hard, not when he was at school in an academic sense, but when he was released by Celtic at a young age. He then had to have a drive and a determination to achieve all that he has, and he's clearly got that drive and determination, and that's something that we're trying to harness and foster into the young people at the school.
Is a great new chapter in Scotland's sporting history about to be written? The next few hours will tell. Scotland's footballers carry with them tonight the hopes of a nation. I don't know whether it's excitement or tension, Mary, but the atmosphere around Hampden is full of it right now. I think we can have a look at some pictures now of the players arriving here a few minutes ago. Their first job tonight will be to handle the weight of expectation that's on their shoulders. Their second job will be to score a goal, which is something they haven't done so far in this tournament, and it's something they absolutely must do against Croatia tonight. Now remember, Croatia are a team which just 3 years ago got to the World Cup final, so no one here is expecting this game to be easy.
OK, Geraint Venson at Hampden Park, thank you. Well, England are also having to make do without a star performer. Mason Mount, one of two players ruled out of tonight's match against the Czech Republic because of their contact with Scotland's Billy Gilmour on Friday. Here's our sports editor, Steve Scott.
Events may have conspired against England, but despite the COVID crisis, as usual before a game, fans' optimism is bubbling over. However, they are demanding to be entertained.
We expect for him to go for it. You know, third game, we've only scored 1 goal. God, come on.
We've got 100% individuals of talent. Let's gel as a team.
Yes.
England left their hotel for the stadium this evening after a very difficult build-up to such a key game. While Gareth Southgate always exudes calm, even his patience has been tested, losing Ben Chilwell and especially standout performer Mason Mount for 10 days after they spent too long talking to Chelsea teammate Billy Gilmour in the tunnel once Friday's game was over. You have to be flexible in tournament football, but if the protocols had been followed to the letter, this chaos could have been avoided.
It's not easy for Gareth. I'm looking from the manager's point of view. You know, it's a real conundrum. It's real difficult for him. But you know what? In some ways, Mason Mount might have got a bit of a rest anyway.
Tonight's forced reshuffle is likely to mean more game time for fans' favourite Jack Grealish, widely labelled as a modern-day Paul Gascoigne.
He was so fearless. He always looked like he was playing, you know, with a smile on his face, and he was just. He reminded me of myself a little bit, the way he just loved having the ball at his feet. He just loved football, didn't he? And he weren't like shy of saying that.
20 million watched the England-Scotland match, and across the country they're gearing up again.
It's all getting involved and putting it up to show we care, show our support.
Hopefully we will bring it home, but you never know with that one, do you?
They and everyone here at Wembley will have a much better idea of how likely that really is in a few hours' time.
And tonight it's emerged there's an even greater incentive for teams to make it through to the last four, because the government has just announced it's going to allow more than 60,000 fans into the semi-finals and into the final here. They will be the biggest crowds at a sporting event in the UK for 15 months. There had been fears that UEFA would move those games to Hungary, just like they handed the Champions League final to Portugal and not to Wembley. The sticking point has been quarantine-free travel for officials and foreign fans, but we expect an announcement that's overcome all that in the next couple of days.
Okay. Steve Scott at Wembley, thank you. And you can watch Scotland against Croatia right after the evening news on STV and ITV4. Our coverage begins at 7. England's game against the Czech Republic is on ITV and ITV2, also from 7. And you can also stream those games on the ITV Hub and STV Player. But briefly, moving on from football, and plans allowing quarantine-free travel to amber countries, expected to be announced by the government this week, could put family trips abroad back on the agenda sometime this summer. Now, the plans would include children under 18, as long as they're with people who've had the full double vaccine. Our political correspondent Carl Dinnan has more.
Can you just roll up your sleeve for me?
We are jabbing our way to freedom. Fully vaccinated adults may be allowed quarantine-free travel to many more countries under plans being considered by the government this week.
We are working on what extra freedoms people can have when they're double vaccinated, but we're not there yet, and we're going to be careful on this. We want to do it right, and we want to make sure that we protect people whilst also, of course, getting life back to normal.
The change would apply to countries on the amber travel list, which includes France, Spain, Italy and Greece. ITV News understands ministers will also consider exempting children from the need to quarantine on return from amber list countries. Now, that could mean family trips are possible before the end of the summer, but could also mean large numbers of unvaccinated children returning from countries where the risk of coronavirus is greater. And that does raise concerns.
Well, we know that children can catch and transmit COVID, so if we're concerned about adults potentially bringing COVID back in, then we should be concerned about children bringing back COVID, especially if they're going to countries where the rate is currently higher than it is in the UK.
Of course, other countries have rules on travel from the UK. If you're not vaccinated, France allows essential travel only. If you are, you still need a pre-departure test. Spain has no entry requirements to test or isolate on arrival, but the USA still has a ban on all visitors from the UK. Lisette Savage hasn't been to see her parents in the Netherlands for nearly 18 months, and yet 2 jabs might still not be enough to get her there.
Even if they said, oh, you can go to an amber country, I'm not sure if I'd be allowed in because of them seeing the threat of the UK cases, so I don't know if that's going to change.
And so this is likely to remain a difficult year both for travellers and the travel industry. Carl Dinnan, ITV News, Westminster.
Still to come on the ITV News, how the Big Brother star Nikki Grahams was failed while she battled an eating disorder. And a special surprise for this war veteran on her 100th birthday. Those stories and more after the break. Hello again, welcome back. ITV News understands the government has spoken to Amazon about our investigation into the online giant's destruction of thousands of unsold or returned items. Now, there has been a massive reaction to the issues raised by our findings, such as the scrapping of laptops, which charities say should and could have been donated to children who need them most. Richard Pallow reports.
A day on, and the world's biggest online retailer continues to find itself under pressure. Our ITV News investigation showed unsold items, most perfectly usable, being marked out for destroy, compelling the government to speak to Amazon directly on this issue. Among the stock disposed of were computers.
We watched as the pallets were removed.
Something Shalane Young, a mother from South London, couldn't quite believe. She'd been in desperate need of one to homeschool her children.
I think it's absolutely disgusting. I mean, even in lockdown, we've obviously had to do remote learning. Amazon throwing away so much devices, electronicals, you know, that could go towards so much different families, social care homes, and it could help so much other families rather than just throwing it away and just disregarding it. It's terrible. 1, 2, 3.
So for months, Shalane's children had their lessons via her phone. Other families had to rely on old computers being refurbished.
I got some bits from Lewis from Food Bank. I've got an old laptop.
Supply issues here have now eased, but over the last year and more, new laptops were gold dust.
As a manager of a social enterprise, what would you say to Amazon managers anywhere in the country who might engage in these practices?
Well, it's a complete waste. Brand new laptops, we could have simply said to Amazon, well, that school need 100, that school need 200, and the problem could have been solved really quickly.
Our revelations came from inside just one warehouse in Scotland. Amazon's policies are not against the law, but politicians believe there is much to question.
Amazon appeared before the Environmental Audit Select Committee last year and proclaimed their sustainability credentials. What your report uncovers is a truly astonishing degree of waste of resources. And if true, it is a scandal that Amazon have got to start to address.
But the ramifications go far wider than Westminster now. They're of global concern.
Rich, there's been a massive response to this, hasn't there? Pressure really building on Amazon to act.
Indeed. I mean, the environmental campaigner Greta Thunberg's just one of the high-profile figures that's drawn attention to our story. Here I've got a letter from another group of MPs demanding a meeting with Amazon's UK boss at his earliest convenience and reminding us that 1 in 10 under-15s in this country don't have any access to any laptops. Now, Amazon have reminded us tonight that their goal is to have zero product disposal, and their priority remains to resell, to donate or recycle anything that is unsold. But I will tell you, I've been contacted today by a couple of other ex-employees from completely different centres in England this time, alleging very similar practices. We await a response from Amazon on those.
All right, we wait with interest. Richard, thank you very much for that. Now, friends of the Big Brother star Nikki Grahams are claiming tonight she died because the system failed her. Nikki weighed less than 5 stone when she succumbed to complications arising from the eating disorder anorexia nervosa. Her death came just a day after she was discharged from hospital. Chloe Keedy reports.
This is the Nikki Grahams her best friends will remember. As a contestant on Big Brother, she was known for her very public on-screen rants.
Who is she? Who is she?
but privately she was fighting a much bigger battle against anorexia.
You could definitely see there was two sides of her. 1 minute she's like, I don't want help, and within the same sentence she's asking for help.
But according to Carly and Leon, Nikki never got the help she needed. They say her death in April at the age of 38 could and should have been prevented.
If there was more help out there and there was more funding, I feel like Nikki would have been saved.
Over the course of nearly 3 decades, they watched her come and go from NHS clinics, until finally last year, in desperation, they were forced to fundraise to try and get her specialist private care. So when Nikki collapsed in March this year and was admitted to Dorset County Hospital, her friends say their relief quickly turned to disbelief. Nikki was treated for a spinal injury and discharged on the 8th of April. She died the next day.
Why would you send someone home that's that critical? In the end, it was someone at that hospital that actually allowed her then and signed her to go home.
With people pleading to them to not let her leave.
The hospital told us staff at the trust were deeply saddened to learn of the death of Miss Graham. A full internal investigation into the care Miss Graham received is currently underway and ongoing. This is in line with standard procedures following any sudden death. Nikki's friends say that being in lockdown made her illness much worse. And Nikki wasn't the only one struggling. Over the course of the past year, MPs heard today demand for eating disorder services has increased by more than a fifth.
Lockdown brought a particular pressure and a particular strain on those young women who had been concealing, managing, living with eating disorders.
Nikki's friends are using the money they raised before her death to set up a foundation in her name. They want her legacy to be helping other people with eating disorders, but say there must also be more funding if there is to be any real change. Chloe Keedy, ITV News.
And finally, a special 100th birthday present for a special Second World War veteran. Jacqueline was just 18 when she joined the Royal Navy Wrens, but it was a full 75 years before she claimed her service medals. Rachel Younger met her at her care home in Essex.
Hello, Jacqueline. How are you?
An instinctive salute even after 75 years.
How marvellous.
Surprised on her 100th birthday with the war medals she never got round to claiming.
Oh, isn't it wonderful?
Jacqueline was a Royal Navy signaller in the Second World War, the medals bringing her days boarding warships flooding back.
Because they were so keen to see a girl they hadn't seen since heaven knows when, they kept on stuffing one with chocolate biscuits, which one never saw ashore, and gin.
But heading for India on board the HMS Devonshire, her war soon turned serious.
Action stations went, and there was a submarine alert, and the ship some way ahead had been torpedoed. I'll never forget that.
And now she has the medals to go with both her memories and the can-do spirit that sustained her throughout the pandemic.
Well, you just got to get on with it. And that's that. It'll be all right in the end.
Rachel Younger, ITV News, Essex.
Oh, and a happy birthday to Jacqueline Wonderful. That's it. Tom's here at 10:30. From me and all the team. Bye-bye.